Madeline Carter sat upright on the polished oak bench, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Her eyes stayed fixed on the man across the courtroom, Daniel Carter, the man she had married 13 years ago, the father of her children. Now a stranger who wouldn't meet her gaze, she studied his face. The same sharp jawline she once traced with her fingers during late-night talks was now rigid with smugness. The same steel-gray eyes that once softened when he held her after their son's nightmares were now narrowed with calculation. Time hadn't reshaped him, but it had drained him of warmth. 13 years of marriage. 2 children, Noah, 12, and Emma, 9. A house in Charleston, South Carolina, filled with memories she had fought to preserve. But when the late nights at work became excuses, when the distance grew into silence, she knew something had shifted. And then came Sabrina, the woman everyone knew Daniel had chosen. Younger, effortlessly glamorous, and calculating in a way that made Madeline ache with quiet fury, but she wasn't here for fury. The court didn't care about betrayal. It only cared about terms: custody, support, visitation. Cold, clinical words that dismantled a life. When the judge entered, everyone stood. Daniel leaned back in his chair, his suit crisp, his posture arrogant, as if this were a contest to be won. Sabrina sat just behind him, her long legs crossed, her face carefully arranged into false sympathy. Madeline lowered her eyes. She wasn't here to fight Daniel anymore. She was here for Noah and Emma, for her children, her dignity, her peace. The ruling came swiftly. Custody awarded to Madeline. Daniel granted standard visitation and support obligations. The judge's tone was mechanical, but each word struck like a gavel to Madeline's heart. It was over, at least she thought it was. Then Daniel cleared his throat. "Your Honor, there is one more matter," he said smoothly. Madeline's body tensed. Her attorney, Rachel Myers, frowned in surprise. "Yes, Mr. Carter?" the judge asked, weary. Daniel leaned forward, lacing his fingers. "I'd like the return of certain gifts I gave Madeline during our marriage. Items of significant monetary value." The courtroom stilled. Jewelry, designer bags, a few art pieces, and crystal sets, he listed with ease. "And I'd like the sapphire necklace I gave her after Emma was born. The silver bracelet from our 7th anniversary. They were expensive, and I'd like them returned." Madeline blinked, stunned. "Those weren't things, they were memories, pieces of a life," Rachel whispered fiercely. "He has no legal claim." "Let me respond." But before Madeline could answer, Daniel added coldly, "And I want the children's gifts back as well if their value exceeds $50. The judge snapped his gaze up. "You're asking for the children's gifts?" Daniel nodded without shame. "The telescope I gave Noah, the music box, the charm bracelet, the collectible books. They're all valuable, and I believe I'm entitled to them." Gasps spread through the courtroom. Even Rachel froze. Madeline's chest ached. Noah's telescope, Emma's music box, symbols of love now reduced to property lines. And behind Daniel, Sabrina's lips curled into the faintest smile. This wasn't just Daniel. This was her influence too. The judge sighed. "Mr. Carter, this is not the proper venue. You'll need a separate hearing." Madeline rose slowly, her voice steady but quiet. "It won't be necessary, Your Honor." Rachel turned sharply. "Madeline, don't. I'll return everything," Madeline said, locking eyes with Daniel. "Every single thing. He can have it all." Daniel's smirk faltered. Sabrina shifted, and Madeline didn't tremble. She didn't rage. She stood calm, unshaken, and for the first time free. The next week, her Charleston home fell into silence. Not peace, not yet, just the silence after a storm. She began boxing everything Daniel had demanded: the sapphire necklace he clasped around her neck the night Emma was born, the bracelet that once helped her pretend their marriage was intact, designer bags she never wanted, crystal vases that once filled their dining room. She packed them with care, not to honor him, but because that's how she was raised. Even endings deserved grace, but the hardest part came in the children's rooms. Noah's telescope still stood by the window, the one he and Daniel once used to map constellations together. Madeline's hands shook as she dismantled it piece by piece, wrapping the lenses gently, remembering when she wrapped Noah in a towel after his first swimming lessons. Emma's room was worse. The soft pink walls, the tiny music box still playing its lullaby. Madeline wound it once, listening to the melody, before wrapping it carefully. She added the silver charm bracelet, the storybooks filled with Emma's sticky notes, and even the stuffed rabbit Emma once slept with every night. Each item was a wound, each box a farewell. By the end, the living room was lined with cartons, neat, labeled, ready. They looked harmless, but they held fragments of wonder, trust, and heartbreak. When Noah and Emma came home that day, their eyes widened at the boxes. "Are we moving?" Emma whispered. "No, sweetheart," Madeline said softly. "These are just things your dad asked me to return." Noah stiffened. "You mean the telescope?" Madeline nodded. "Why would he even do that?" His voice cracked with anger. "I don't know," she whispered, touching his shoulder. "Maybe he thought things mattered more than they do, but they matter to us," Emma said, almost in tears. "They did," Madeline replied gently. "But what matters most is us. That we're okay." Noah clenched his jaw. "He doesn't want us to have memories." Madeline pulled both children close. "Then we'll make new ones. Better ones. No one can take that from us." The day she returned the boxes, Sabrina was waiting outside the law office in Savannah. Sleek coat, phone in hand, lips curved into a satisfied smirk. "Is this all of it?" she asked sweetly. Madeline's voice was calm. "Every single thing, down to the last trinket." She signed the papers, stacked the boxes neatly, and turned to leave. "You didn't have to make it so easy," Sabrina said, eyes glinting. "Most women would have made it messy." Madeline finally looked at her. "It's easy when you realize none of it matters anymore." Her voice was sharp but steady. "Enjoy them. It takes a certain kind of hunger to decorate your life with leftovers from someone else's broken home." Sabrina's smirk faltered. Madeline walked into the morning light, unshaken. Her home felt lighter after the boxes were gone. Empty spaces remained where the telescope once stood, where the music box once sang, but they didn't hollow her out. They freed her. She made coffee, sunlight pouring across the counter. She pulled out her old journal and began writing again, not about Daniel, not about loss, but about Noah's new love for baking, Emma's laughter, the peace that now filled her evenings. She wrote a list. Buy Noah a telescope of his own, take Emma to the ballet, remove the last photo of the wedding from the hallway. These weren't rebellions. They were declarations of freedom, because letting go wasn't defeat. It was a choice. People think revenge is loud, angry words, courtroom battles. But sometimes the most powerful revenge is silence. It's walking away with your head high, while the other person drowns in the emptiness they created. Daniel wanted a reaction. Sabrina wanted satisfaction. What they got was stillness, and Madeline. She had her children. She had her dignity. She had her life back. As the morning sun warmed her face, she whispered, not aloud but with conviction, "I'm still here. I'm still standing," and that was everything.